please.
Thank you, Sir John, and it's a pleasure to serve under your Premier Chairmanship. And also thank you to my friend and the member for West Bromwich for calling this important debate and for a really passionate speech. I think it's fantastic to hear both from the victims and from the perpetrators of these crimes. As the MP for Halesowen, I am all too aware of the scourge of knife crime across our region. Many people from my constituency still remember the tragic death of Ryan Passy, a promising young footballer from Quarry Bank, who was stabbed to death in a nightclub in 2017. Ryan was killed as his assailants were able to carry a knife into that venue without being stopped and with no fear of being caught. And it's shocking that no one yet has been found guilty of his murder. His family is still fighting for justice more than 7 years after he was killed. And since Ryan's tragic death, knife crime has continued to blight our community. In August last year, 3 youths attacked and slashed a man on Silverton Lane in Cradley Heath. And in September, students at Lesos High School were placed under lockdown for their safety after masked youths were seen with machetes hanging outside around the school. The number of young men and boys carrying and using knives with impunity across our communities is deeply worrying. And residents are scared, with many telling me they no longer feel safe leaving their homes alone. This is unacceptable. People deserve to feel safe in their communities, and students should not be having their learning disrupted due to threats of violence. The numbers on knife crime in our region are terrifying. Research by the Office for National Statistics has reported that the West Midlands has the highest rate of knife crime of any region in the whole country, with more than 5,000 offences reported last year. Rates of knife crime in our region have increased year on year since 2015, and we now have higher rates of knife crime than in London. And worryingly, this seems to be driven by a big increase in children and young people carrying knives. Last year, over 3,200 young people aged 10 to 17 were charged with knife offences, which is up 20% on a decade ago. As MPs for the West Midlands, we should be deeply concerned about these statistics. The truth is, it's a legacy of poor decisions over the last decade by the Conservative government. A legacy of cuts to neighbourhood policing, cuts to youth services, rising child poverty and failing youth justice system that works in the interests of no one. This government has a moral responsibility to act now to tackle this crisis, and our response requires a multifaceted approach. First, we must focus on preventing weapons from reaching our streets. This means making it harder for young people to gain access to dangerous weapons like machetes, ninja swords and zombie blades. And in this regard, I welcome the government's new ban on these weapons. Second, the police must have the resources and powers to stop and seize weapons from young people on our streets. I was shocked to learn that the rate for police stop and search in the West Midlands is less than half of what it is in London. As we put more bobbies on the beat, the police in the West Midlands should be using our stop and search powers more frequently to respond to rising knife crime. And finally, and most importantly, we need to address the root causes of offending, offering young people hope, opportunities and positive alternatives to destructive pathways. The government's creation of a new Young Futures programme, which includes prevention partnerships across England, is an important step to intervene early and stop young people from being drawn into crime. It is also important to act in our A&E departments. When young people come into emergency rooms with violent injuries, this is a time when social workers and youth workers should be stepping in and offering pathways away from violent behaviour. There is no room for letting people fall through the cracks. I have seen the impact knife crime has on our communities. The families of victims, like Ryan Passy, deserve real action to prevent these tragedies happening again and again. But I'm confident that together we can work to prevent more knives getting on our streets, deter people from carrying them, and make people across the West Midlands finally feel safe. Yeah.